beautiful introduction, so thank you. And Zach and Leah, you know, are just two stunning examples of our theory of change playing out. So thank you for what you're doing. Just in, you know, teaching and reflecting on what you're learning and going out and actually launching a bold initiative to get at, you know, your deepest passion from that experience. So it's very exciting to see, and I'm excited about this particular initiative in part because of what I've learned over the last few years about just the power of a global network. As Leah said, about, you know, a few years ago, 7, 8 years ago now, I started meeting these very inspiring social entrepreneurs in countries around the world, whether, you know, from very diverse contexts, who, for one reason or another, had just determined that they had to launch Teach for India or Enseña Chile or whatever it may be. And that led us on this journey, as some of you know, of creating a global network of all these independent organizations that are out there pursuing the same mission that Teach for America pursues, working to enlist their country's most promising future leaders in channeling their energy towards ensuring educational opportunity for all, committing 2 years to teach in their most under-resourced communities, and then going on and pursuing a lifetime of leadership to try to get at the root causes of those problems. And what we do through Teach for All is, you know, it's a big global network, and we've got all sorts of opportunities for all of these folks, from teachers to alums to the staff members themselves, to learn from each other. And there have been, among other things, yeah, I would say 2 kind of really striking lessons for me from this experience. You know, one of them is just about the absolute universality of kind of the nature of the problem that we're working to address. Meaning, this is clearly a pervasive problem, and it exists, you know, to greater extremes than it exists here in the US and in less developed places. Interestingly enough, it actually exists in almost every country, even in the ones that we don't think it exists in. Like, I don't know if you all would wake up and think that in Japan or Korea or Sweden or whatever, that in fact socioeconomic background predicts educational outcomes, but it turns out once you really peel away the onion, it's almost always the case, and it is the case in those 3 places as 3 examples. But beyond that, what I've come to realize is that not only is it a pervasive problem everywhere, but it's very similar in its nature. Meaning, you know, once you start spending time in classrooms and schools, and even at the governmental levels, you just realize that this is one, it's very similar from place to place. And that means that the solutions are shareable. And as I've been running around in the world, kind of surfacing that kind of fundamental lesson, what I've heard from others who spend a lot of their time in international context is that this is far more true than not, almost no matter what you look at. So to me, I mean, the good news out of all that is that, you know, that means we can all learn so much from each other. The other lesson, which I kind of went into this assuming would be the case, but have just seen play out in such powerful ways, is just how powerful diverse cultures and contexts are in terms of inspiring different ways of thinking and prioritizing. And so I think this explains why, I mean, you know, just as one very tangible example, clearly Teach for America has been at its work for 23 years, and as you know, is a very, you know, data-driven and continuously improving organization. But I don't think it would be an overstatement to say that probably the single greatest driver of change at Teach for America in the last year or so has been what we've learned from these programs in their 2nd or 3rd year, like what we've learned from Teach for India, what we've learned from Enseña Peru. And I think it just speaks to the power of, first of all, incredible, brilliant people all over the world drawn to a similar mission, but the power of diverse cultures as well. So those fundamental learnings, I guess, just resonate in my head as I think about what you all are doing and the power of, you know, creating a global network, not only of teachers and others who are working on this issue, but of the students themselves. And you just think about how powerful and formative that experience will be for them to understand truly the commonality of our, existence, and also though to learn from, just the power of, because through the power of diverse cultures and such. And I would finally just say, on a personal level, we spend a lot of time, as I'm sure many of you do, just thinking about, obviously we're in the midst of this kind of vitriolic education reform discussion, and people talk about all sorts of things, but when you get into schools, you're fundamentally asking yourself, like, truly, is this good enough? Would it be good enough for our kids? And, I have little kids, and I look at what you're doing, and I just think, this is what I would wish for my kids. Like, I know for a fact, like, knowing them and just thinking about them individually, like, I'm looking at this thinking, they would love this. And I just know how much it would engage them because it is so authentic, and because kids are just turned on by other kids, by other countries. I mean, I think about my kids are obsessed with Teach for All for reasons I can't even explain. Like, they just love the idea. So I think about that because I just think, like, the notion of bringing something like this to our, not only kids like mine, but our highest need kids and high need kids all around the world. I just think this is exactly what we need more of. So. So thank you for everything you're doing and for having me here and enabling me and the rest of Teach for America and Teach for All to benefit from your initiative. So thanks.